Hello guys, you know that Crimea is Ukraine, but Crimea is also a deadly spot for the Russian air defense because inexpensive Ukrainian drones keep destroy super expensive radars and air defense systems that Russians keep bringing to the peninsula, all because it is an important military and logistics hub for the Russian army and a perfect target for our drones. And thanks to satellite images, now we can tell more about these recent strikes of Ukrainian drones on the peninsula, which resulted in the destruction of a number of radars used by different air defense systems of the Russian army, but most importantly, for the first time in history, we've destroyed their S-500 radar. You know, S-300, S-400 are expensive, are complex, but S-500 is a newly developed air defense system that was supposed to protect the Russian troops from everything, including intercontinental ballistic missiles and, perhaps aliens aircraft, but failed to protect itself from the Ukrainian drones. So let's discuss what happened recently to many radars and in particular to the radar of S-500 in Crimea that will return back to Ukraine. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia, and that is the only working peace plan, no matter what Donald Trump says, subscribe and please share these videos if you share my opinion and also to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. That's the easiest but extremely effective way. Just a day ago, I reported strikes and serious explosions on the military facilities and locations in the temporarily occupied Crimea. And today, thanks to satellite images, we can speak more about the targets destroyed. The attack was conducted by the Ukrainian intelligence office, and they always develop beautiful operations. I'm sure you have understood that after our spider web, but there are dozens, if not hundreds of others that demonstrate this combination of creativity and modern innovative decisions. So inexpensive, literally cheap Ukrainian drones were able to target a number of Russian radars, which are the eyes and perhaps the most important parts of Russian air to surface or surface to air, anyway, air defense systems. And during the last night, we have destroyed a number of them, including radar Nebo, radar Podlyot, and what we considered radar of the S-400 system. You all know that S-400 system is way better than S-300 system, and it's actually one of the main Russian air defense systems that keep failing because, let's be realistic, they want to protect their strategic objects like an oil refinery in Sochi or Ryazan that literally paralyzed the market of oil products, not just inside Russia but also outside Russia. They cannot export it anymore. So it's not like, the lack of the Ukrainian drones, it's the inability of Russia to protect itself. They don't control borders, they don't control their airspace, they don't control logistics, and I'm sure in the months to come we will see more and more of the things that the Kremlin does not control. And at the same time, we now, after this analysis of the satellite images and reading the reports of the Ukrainian intelligence, can say that last night, for the first time in history, Ukrainian drones destroyed the radar of the newly developed Russian radar S-500. And inside Russia, they literally had TV programs dedicated to it. Maybe even documentaries speaking about the innovative breakthrough nature of this radar that collapsed after the landing of the Ukrainian drone. Like and subscribe to witness more of the Russian failures, and it all began with the failure of their blitzkrieg and most likely will lead to the collapse of the Russian Federation. But don't be afraid of that. Better watch this video to understand that this is a pretty natural process. So S-500 is a newly developed radar that, according to the Russian propagandists, according to the Russian scientists, was supposed to stop not just ordinary long-range missiles, but intercontinental ballistic missiles. The system was supposed to be able to identify even satellites, this like space satellites on the low orbit. And when you listen to them speaking about this radar, you would believe it can detect, I don't know, aliens in the adjacent galaxy. But somehow, this super expensive, super complex system was not able to detect ordinary Ukrainian drones that destroyed it last night. And what is interesting, this radar was literally introduced into the Russian army in 2021 when they were preparing for the invasion, just as they are preparing for other attacks on other countries right now. Trust me, they don't want to end this war. Putin does not have a strategy on how to end this war and what to do with 1 million bloodthirsty soldiers who for the first time in history earn some money. So he does not want to end war in Ukraine, and he's preparing to attack some countries. And I personally believe they will test NATO together with China, with Iran and North Korea. And I wonder what will be the answer. But if Ukraine survives, we are prepared to stand for you too. Anyway, Russians love using this phrase like no analogs exist, and they often describe their weapons or their strategies like no analogs exist to Oreshnik. That's why we keep testing it and it's failing. Literally, no analogs exist. And the same about this S-500 radar. No analogs exist. That's why this radar, capable of destroying intercontinental ballistic missiles, was destroyed by a Ukrainian drone. Indeed, no analogs exist to this kind of stupidity. And there is a question why such expensive new complex systems appear in Crimea. And some people think because Russians wanted to check how it works. Well, they did. It doesn't. But another thing, which I consider most likely, they have run out of radars, they have run out of air defense systems. That's why they bring everything they have, even if it was still under development. It was still underdeveloped. And this is the demonstration that Russia never planned war to, also develop on its territory. That's why the population cheered for more attacks on Ukraine. They didn't feel it. It was happening somewhere in the Telegram, on Facebook, on YouTube. But when they hear the sounds of explosions and air raid alert and smoke, they are lucky. We target only military facilities or such, arsenals or other things, but we never do bad things to their people who still cheer for this war. But every time they hear an explosion, every time they are stuck in the Russian airport, because Russia is a no-fly zone, every time they learn that the government is preparing to fix the prices, and that's a breakthrough of the Soviet economy, a return back to the past. Actually a joke that I kind of like, that Putin dreamt to return back to the USSR, and finally he did. But to these last years of the USSR, he wanted to recreate it on the map, but he actually recreated it economically. And now we see a lot of poor people. That's nothing new for the Russian Federation, but more and more people who cannot return small debts, who cannot take their deposits out of their banks. And soon they will have real queues similar to the one of the 80s, 90s, with just a few products on the shelves. I wonder, will they ask Putin, what's wrong with our special military operation? We have war now in dozens of Russian regions when it was supposed to protect us from war, plus no money at all left. And I pray that no sanctions are lifted, because what's happening now between the White House and the Kremlin, I don't like. Nobody does. And I hope that you people who have influence on your politicians, remember that they are our servants. They are not our kings or queens. that you keep influencing them, that you keep persuading them that Russia cannot be appeased. We have this experience with Crimea. We have this experience in Georgia. It does not bring peace. It only brings more wars and conflicts. And you have Ukraine determined to defeat this evil. Simply help us and we will do the job. Because the battlefields are here. The soldiers are Ukrainians. And we are prepared to do that. And look at what we achieve with our inexpensive drones. Just imagine what we can do with real long-range missiles. And if you don't invest in Ukraine, I hope we will develop our own. But no one will agree to surrender to the bloody Kremlin regime, especially taking into account that it is on the brink of the collapse. Remember to subscribe to my new channel, Anna Danilchuk, where I share more of these discussion-style videos. And for example, in the recent one, we talk about the Russian tourism and why was it cancelled, I wonder. And still, I never advise you to travel to Russia, at least until it is fully defeated. Follow me on X, I'm fighting there. On Instagram, our community is rapidly growing there and it makes me super excited. Follow me on Blue Sky and Threads, and of course, join our Discord community. Tomorrow, I'll be happy to spend an hour or two with you discussing some important topics about the Russian war in Ukraine during our live 9 p.m. Kyiv. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. And you know we need your informational support, and I'm always very proud when you act as our ambassadors literally in every corner of the world. When buying those products, please let me know in your messages, in your comments, where are you from. This makes me feel super proud of how big and strong our community is. And thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!